Hey, we're going live.
Are we?
Yeah, we're live. Hello,
What's up, everybody?
Dork Discoursers. Happy Tuesday, friends. Happy penultimate episode of the Bad Batch tonight. We are down to
Yup.
2 weeks left before this era here of Star Wars animation is concluded. And with that, I figured we would discuss the finale next week, share predictions, share thoughts, since everyone in the showrunners, the production side of things for Bad Batch has been really hyping up tonight's episode. Penultimate, second to last, things could go wrong. I've seen quite a lot of hype on Twitter from the production side of things, so I figured,
X, you mean?
it will always be Twitter for me, okay? I still...
Have you still haven't updated it?
No.
Oh.
I will never. I should sell this as an NFT. How can I get it so that I still have the Twitter icon on my phone until they make it inoperable for you unless you update, which certain features I don't have. Like, I can't see quote tweets and stuff. So, like, certain features, yeah, I have been living without. But I still have that little blue bird.
Anyway.
Yes. Bad Batch, T-minus 2 weeks until it is over. Series finale of it all. And so I felt inspired. I wanted to hear from everybody and see what everyone thinks could be the future of Star Wars animation, and also hoped that this manifests in a way, because as where we stand, we do just have confirmation, yes, that Tales of the Empire now, the Tales of series, is continuing, and the fact that they've switched trajectory and theme and focus of the second installment here is leading me to believe that it could be a thematic shift each season, and that it could go on and on. As some of you guys suggested, there could be Tales of Sith, Tales of the Bounty Hunters, Tales of the Smugglers. There could be tales of so many things here in Star Wars. Tales of the Rebels, Tales of the First Order, Tales of the Resistance. Like, it could go on and on. So, but as far as that, beyond that, we don't really have any confirmation solidified for any announcements of a potential spin-off or what a future new series could be for Star Wars animation. So I figured today we could manifest it all, put it out into the ether, share some ideas, hear from you guys what you guys would want to see, and discuss from what has been planted by the Bad Batch, if anything that could spawn an interesting new series perhaps that's related, or if they should start clean slate, go elsewhere, extend beyond, have they milked the Clone Wars era dry here. So yes, but without further ado, thank you all for being here. Shout out to the OGs. Shout out to many of our members here in the chat. We had Sean, Charlie, Alice, Bird Church. Won't be able to make this one. That's all right. We'll catch you in the replay. Matthew. Who else is here? Visitor Zeta. Sabanis Thanos. Hello, welcome. I probably mispronounced your name. I apologize. Lord Fowl, Jerry, Stanley's. Let's go. Andrew, Sal. Gang's all here. Kyle Tonorella, welcome. Assange getting her own animated series is what I'm hoping for next.
Interesting.
Listen, y'all. If you saw the little short I posted today, I finished finally listening to Dark Disciple, and I was up last night till like 1 a.m. reeling and depressed. Still am, but in the process of trying to heal, I read some other... So now that I've finished that book, I have an understanding of where the controversy was surrounding her return to the Bad Batch. So I was reading other articles about circumstances, how it could have happened, explanation that we don't necessarily get from the show. But in that article, the author, proposed perhaps she could be getting her own show. And, we know of Quinlan Voss and The Path, like... When does that start to form? Is it in this time period, this era here, where they're trying to scrounge surviving Jedi and get them out and get them new identities or whatnot? So I am with you there on that one, Kyle. I would very much like to see, if you're going to bring her back in all her glory, not just for... I will say it kind of soured her cameo for me a little bit, because I'm hoping it's not the end. I'm hoping this is not the last... That they didn't bring her back for just one episode. Like, no offense to them. I understand if you respect the character and you want to have them cameo, but make it good, And now that I finished that book, I'm a little bit like, give me more. So I would very much like to see that as well. Although go ahead.
I'm a Sal.
What does Sal say?
Tale of Scumbags.
What?
With Sid and Commander Fox.
No.
I'm with you, Sal. I'm with you.
No, I literally, they're still not going to give us the satisfaction of Hunter absolutely wrecking Sid this season and taking vengeance. I've settled for the fact that with only 2 episodes left, they're not, and they're going to they're going to Tantus.
No. It would go against Hunter's character. It wouldn't go against Hemlock's character or Vader's character or Palpatine's character. Wouldn't go against any of their characters to torture and brutally murder Sid.
Yeah, that's
Wouldn't be against their characters to do that.
I don't think they're gonna waste their precious time though. Sal, neither of us have seen Deadpool, if I'm being honest. So that might be.
I've seen Deadpool.
You've seen Deadpool?
Yeah.
How come you act like you
Forever
don't know
ago.
anything about it?
I
when I talk
don't,
to you
because
about
it came out forever ago. So I don't remember. I remember like parts of it.
I think one of my next reactions on the channel, I think I'm gonna pivot a little to do some movie reactions, because the original 1984 Dune reaction that I recently posted has been received pretty well, and it's drawn some new people to the channel. It's been fun to converse with them, so I might try out some movie reactions, and I think I want to do Deadpool next, because there's so much craze around that movie as a superhero film, and it could actually, in hindsight now, be really fun to see how that stands out in this era now, in today's day and age, where I feel like there's a lot of congestion, a lot of just formulaic repetition, and superhero films are kind of starting to get stuffy. You know what I'm saying? So it might be fun to watch and see what the hype is about. But I've also not seen Logan. And I know that Wolverine is making an appearance in this one. Isn't it literally called Deadpool and Wolverine?
Yeah, you gotta watch the first Deadpool.
So I have to watch Deadpool and I have to watch Logan. So I might react to both of those. So I can't say what I thought of the trailer. After I watch, I will give my thoughts. Stanley's makes a good point. The actress for Ventress was teasing that her cameo in Bad Batch was just the beginning. I hope so, because I'm with Sean. Ben Solo.
Very interesting.
I want every animator we have to focus on that woman. Dark Disciple made me hate Mace Windu. It's definitely a different side of his character that we see. Of everybody, I was starting to get a little questionable about Obi-Wan too. Everyone was kind of a little bit questionable in that book. Tales of the Clones of Palpatine, right? Tales of the Snokes. You should definitely watch it in reference to Deadpool. First one is great. Second one's directed by David Leitch. Director of John Wick 1 and Bullet Train. The third film looks great. Oh, I didn't realize there's 2, so now I gotta watch 2. And Logan is fantastic. Yeah, I've heard that one, as Stan Lee says, is top tier as well. Jerry also says, never seen the Deadpool movies, but I'm glad that Hugh Jackman is coming back to play Wolverine. No one else could play that role but Hugh Jackman. I know, right? Weren't there rumors of potentially recastings? And, everyone was like, no, no one else can do this. And he's clearly passionate. He's a great guy, so, right, and to Sal's point, he's been playing that character for a quarter of a century. Like, how can anyone else follow that up? Tales of the Glup, says Darnock. The Glup Shitos, as they call them on Twitter. But yeah, no, I think a Ventress, some sort of Ventress, something interwoven with Rex, you know, similar, their missions are kind of paralleled now, saving their brethren, you know, I wouldn't call her, I wouldn't consider Jedi to be her brethren per se, but, you know, she obviously has a change of heart, a redirect of her moral compass, so there is interesting parallel
we
there.
think. We don't know for sure.
Well, I know. Because I read Dark Disciple.
No, that's not the story.
What's you're saying?
Yes, that's leading it up to make us believe that she has a change of heart. But so far in Bad Batch, which is the canon, we don't know that. We have no idea what her motives are, and that based on that Bad Batch episode, we literally have no idea.
Well, she's looking out for their best interests. She obviously has Omega safety in
that's
her...
what she's showing. That's what she's presenting to them, that she's looking out for their best interests. But it doesn't make sense that she would just come there and leave with no higher motive that we don't see in the show, which we don't know what it is, and it could be good, which based on what you said, where her story goes, hints that it's a change of heart and it's good, and she ultimately wants revenge on the Sith, similar to how Maul wants revenge on the Sith. But Bad Batch gave us nothing in terms of what her
I am forgetting though.
Her ultimatum is.
She alluded to if Omega, you'd have to give her up if she wants to pursue this life as Jedi. She'd have to come with me. So that could potentially be an ending. Somebody, I think in the comment section of my last reaction, proposed that Ventress could show up to Tantus and aid in a liberation attempt. I just don't know what the frick is going to happen. I feel like there's only 2 episodes left, but I feel like for whatever efforts they're about to mount on Tantus, it doesn't feel like it's going to be easy enough to warrant and be done within 2 episodes, you know? I feel like I need a 3-episode arc or like an hour-long finale. I feel like we would have known by now, like, if that was in store, if the final episode was going to be like the opening premiere, which was like, what, an hour long? An hour and 20 minutes or something like that? Maybe it was just an hour, and I'm remembering it to be longer because these animated episodes are great when they're extended like that. That opening premiere episode was the bomb. It was amazing. Tales of the Shock Teas. You could honestly do Tales of Shock Teas various 7 deaths.
Yeah. That'll be good.
Tales of Tantus, right? There's so many different Tales of Tusken Raiders. There's so many variants that they could explore for that series. So like I'm glad that we have that, but no offense, but that's short form anthological media. You know, I would like to see. I think I'm just
a movie. How about a movie? A movie would be cool.
An animated movie?
No, a movie, a live action movie. Haven't had one of those in 5 years.
Well, I'm talking. This is for Star Wars animation here. I'm focusing on because we're approaching.
Is that the title?
Not necessarily.
No.
Well, we know that.
I don't see animation in the title.
But
Where
I did
should Star Wars
animation
go
in the
next?
thumbnail. In the thumbnail,
DD.
and it's coming off.
DD.
DD. This is technically our initials.
Yeah.
Dunkin' Donuts episode.
But that's not searchable.
52.
Yeah, Dunkin' Donuts. Sponsored by Dunkin' Donuts. I could eat some Dunkin' right now. Breakfast
Dang, why'd you
sandwich,
say that?
Donuts, some munchkins.
Oh, no, I want a donut. Stop. What was I gonna say? Obviously, the context is we're approaching the final weeks of Bad Batch, and we don't have any confirmation necessarily of a show lined up. Granted, when did they announce
Acolyte?
Bad Batch? I'm talking animation. Yeah, we have Acolyte. We know Ahsoka season 2. We know
Tales
Andor
of the
season
Empire.
2. Tales of the Empire.
Like May 4th, right?
Andor season 2. Acolyte. Ahsoka season 2. Mandalorian. Whenever we're gonna get that. I've kind of forgotten about Mandalorian existing because I think it's going to be several years.
Mandalorian Grogu.
Yeah, and I think it's also, maybe it's just out of my mind because every update I see is that Pedro Pascal's schedule is just too amplified now that there's no way he'd even physically be on set anymore. Like
He's
his
done with
career
Last of Us season 2, right?
Well, that was brief. That was short-lived, but you know, he's done, although I think they wrapped on Gladiator Part 2 and other things, but he's so in demand now. I think the assumption is that he's just not going to be present physically on set. James Mangold's Dawn of the Jedi added Beau Willman as a co-writer who wrote The Prisoner. Oh, that's right. I remember that was blowing up on Twitter. Everyone, because that arc, the Narkina 5 arc,
awesome arc,
was some of the best,
incredible arc.
The best stuff. So that was, I think, a huge relief. Not necessarily relief, because I never had doubts about that. I'm so stoked for that Dawn of the Jedi film anyway, but to learn of the involvement of that writer coming off of how epic that was in Andor, and that was just in episodic television format. You know, I want to see what this guy can do with a full-fledged feature film, you know? Because that's the other thing, too. These films as standalones have to button up at the end. They have to have a good start and finish. There's no sequel, prequel, follow-up. At least for that one.
Yep.
I feel like the Rey film could potentially...
Do you want to revisit how they can tie in?
No.
That's been a topic of multiple Dark Discourse episodes.
No.
How Dawn of the Jedi, Rey movie, and Mandalorian time frame movie.
Oh my god, we're not getting into this.
All tie the
We're
whole
not
thing,
getting into this.
Whole Star Wars canon with a nice bow.
Mandalorian Legion asks, do you think that Omega helping those children escape could lead into a show about the... This could actually be... You make a really good point, Mandalorian Legion, because now we know she's with a bunch of Force-sensitive children. And so it could be interesting if somehow, I'm hesitant to say that Ventress would put herself out there and put herself in the way of danger necessarily to go to Tantus on her own accord to save these children, to save Omega, who she only just met briefly for a day, you know, but if she were to somehow get there or rally with Omega after the fact, like if Omega knows maybe I'm not a Jedi, but these kids are, like if Omega still thinks that she's not Force sensitive for whatever reason, you know, to rally and rendezvous with Ventress, and then if we see her with Quinlan, I kind of need to just see that now to be at peace, to be emotionally at peace. If that was somehow to tie in, if they plant the seed for the path with those two and Omega, where to go with them. Because there's the other thing, they need to answer the questions of what happens to all these people. What happens to all these characters that we never see again in the future of Star Wars?
They're all C, D tier characters. They don't need to ever show up again.
You think?
Yeah. That's why the vast majority of animation characters never show up in anything, because it's
Tell that to Bo-Katan.
I said the majority. Obviously, some have eclipsed that threshold, but like there's each story has a level of direct importance to the greater Star Wars saga, and a lot of the animated stories are at the lower level, but they all feed into the greater Star Wars saga as we know it. But we don't need the droid, little small alien commander guy from Clone Wars who leads the astromech droids on their secret mission. Commander, or I forget, Colonel, I think it's a Colonel something, the little alien guy.
Colonel Sanders?
Like, yeah, Colonel Sanders. Like, you don't need Colonel Sanders to show up in live action. Granted, that's a really, really low-level character. But, like, that's why, like, to me, it doesn't bother me asking questions like, oh, where do these characters show up? Even like Cal Kestis, like video games. Like, the rage of Cal, where is he during the original trilogy? What's he doing? Like, I mean, to me, if they end the third Survivor game and he dies, it's like, oh, great. It's a perfect story. It's a death of sacrifice. Like, it's well contained within the video game space. Like, yeah, he's a great character, and I would love for him to go and increase his role in terms of Star Wars greater lore impact. But, like, I don't think that has to happen. I don't think they need to keep these, like, say, oh, these are all great characters, let's keep them alive. To continue to use them. Like, some of the best characters in Star Wars do have that ending. I think Vader, for example, is the most important one. Like, his death in Return of the Jedi, granted, Anakin becomes a Force ghost, and we see him again in the future, but, like, that death in that moment is, like, why ultimately the pinnacle of Star Wars is the death of Vader. Versus if he survived and it was just a happy ending, it would be different, even though technically he did survive as a Force ghost. But we don't see him interact with anyone in that movie at any other point. He's completely absent from the sequel trilogy, except for his voice in Rise of Skywalker. It's like, but we don't see any type of interaction in every medium, in any other medium, with him and Luke, him and Obi-Wan, him and Yoda, him and anyone from the original trilogy whatsoever. Up to this point, it's just been Ahsoka and the line to Rey.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the death is a good thing. And if it's a meaningful death of a great character, then it just makes their character even more.
So you're saying greater. The Bad Batch characters need to die?
I'm not saying they need to die, but if they did die in a manner of sacrifice, then it makes their character even greater, and it brings a nice conclusion to their arc. Like, if
is everybody gonna die, y'all? In our members only stream this weekend, I was confiding in everyone, and I was getting real and saying, like, I really don't think this is gonna end anywhere near remotely as depressingly as Clone Wars finale did. crying in fetal position. Granted, that was 7 seasons culminating into that after years waiting, not thinking that it was ever going to happen, versus this has only been 3 seasons, and I personally feel like it's been cut short.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Speaking of that, we were talking about it the other day, and I think we both might have unanimously agreed that that's the greatest Disney Star Wars produced thing still.
Yes.
Clone Wars season 7.
Which is why whenever you ask to rewatch it, I have to refuse, because it's still so emotionally raw. Like, that is not rewatchable material, because it's so emotionally draining and depressing. No, that I would say Clone Wars finale. This is why, I wanted to talk about this today, because look at that, and look at how well received Tales of the Jedi was with Dooku's arc, like, that doesn't necessarily hold a candle to the Clone Wars finale, but even as a standalone story, you and I were still like, this is some of the most epic shiz in Star Wars as of late. We wish this was more than just 15 minutes, but in spite of just being 15-minute episodes, it was still phenomenal stuff, and we were just both in awe. Like, this is incredible. This is so impactful. So, this is why I'm like, I still would say, yeah, we're unanimously in agreement that the Clone Wars finale holds up as some of the most emotional, incredible, impactful material in Star Wars in recent years. I mean, and it's animated.
Arguably say that, well, at least that I'm biased, because Revenge of the Sith is my favorite Star Wars movie, and the Clone Wars finale is literally just Revenge of the Sith, the extended edition, with looking at other characters in the exact same time period of Order 66 and the collapse of the Republic and the rise of the Empire and the downfall of Anakin. Like, the tragedy of Revenge of the Sith, the Clone Wars Season 7 finale, is just that in animated form and looking at different characters. So potentially I could be biased, because that is my favorite period of Star Wars timeline. But still, it's incredible. And I think even for people who might not think that Revenge of the Sith is their favorite movie, I think are in agreement that the finale of that show is incredible. I don't think I've ever really seen anyone
say they don't like it.
Yeah.
No, it's like a miracle.
Yeah.
I think it's like the one, that and maybe Luke Skywalker appearance in Mando season 2 finale, I think are
as well.
That was when we achieved homeostasis. Those were the 2 canon events where we achieved peace for just a brief moment in time as a fandom unanimously. Unless, if anyone here can contend that, if you're welcome to. If you were like, no, I effing hated that, I hated both of those, feel free. But I don't think I've heard anyone here or otherwise suggest that. And to me, I feel like they're so, at least specifically the Clone Wars finale we're talking about, that stands out to me personally. My bias is my favorite Star Wars is the Star Wars that makes me emo, makes me cry, rips my heart out and soul out, because so much of Star Wars is tragic like that, and you have to just hold on to that little piece of hope.
Yeah,
but
Revenge of the Sith isn't your favorite movie.
Because it's too much. It's too much. I have a threshold. But I'd venture to say, the Clone Wars finale, there's not really much hope. At the end of that, it's literally like, y'all saw this coming, but yeah, it's not news. It's not news to all of us, and it doesn't end well, so we're not gonna make it end well. No. Versus, so that's why I'm hesitant. The Bad Batch here, I'm not saying I want it to end tragically and be emotional and raw and depressing, but it's like, that is some of the most memorable Star Wars.
Period, roughly.
Yeah, but do you think they would follow up that with an equally tragic, upsetting, heartbreaking finale where Hunter, Wrecker, Crosshair, everybody dies except for Omega?
This is like the epilogue of the Clone Wars. And what happens to the clones? They're all dead except for Rex, Wolf, and Gregor.
But we're clearly not seeing that in this show. The trajectory of this season, I don't think, is focusing at all on uprising.
I think it could be a mass extermination of clones at the end of this.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah, they say they're going to go get them from Tantus, Who's to say that they're not all mass clone genocide on Tantus? And they corral them all up. And then when Tantus is compromised, Palpatine can't risk it getting out because he has to keep it secret for another 60 years. So leave no witnesses. Leave no survivors.
Holy shit.
Mass extinction. They already showed mass extinction of Camino. They literally already did it
Yeah.
in the first season finale of literally wiping out the homeworld. So if they've taken the survivors and got them all to Tantus, bam, one snap of the finger, one order from Palpatine.
But then what does that mean for
sure
all of the clones still in commission, still elsewhere?
They're phasing them out naturally.
Yeah.
But for anybody who's been on Tantus and has any inkling of what's going on, if there's a risk of compromise, Big Sheev isn't going to let that get out. He's not going to let that secret get out.
Oh, crap sauce.
I hope he shows up and exterminates them all himself. That would be the best thing.
Oh, you've got me thinking now that this could happen.
Yeah.
Because I've really convinced myself, like, that this finale is not going to be dark or sad or that anyone's going to die. I've really kind of talked myself off the ledge where I was at the beginning of the season, thinking it was going to be so dark. And I don't know. I just feel the trajectory of where we are right now, nothing right now suggests to me. I mean, it's obviously high stakes danger. We know they're going to Tantus. Like, sure, it would be believable at this rate that there's going to be casualties, perhaps, but nothing's screaming to me like, oh, shnikes, oh, shiz, everyone's going to effing die. Like, I don't know. Nothing has suggested that for me.
They've been saying and setting up that Tantus is the most secret facility in Palpatine's arsenal for his most secret project that he cares about. There's a bunch of people there. Someone already escaped, but they didn't tell Palpatine. They kept it Hemlock swept it under the rug. But if it goes to a certain scale, Palpatine's going to find out, and he's not going to be happy. And he is going to order. This man ordered the execution of every single Jedi in existence. You think he's going to hold back from ordering the execution of every single clone in existence?
Yeah, this is true.
No. Absolutely not. No shot. He's not going to hold back. We've seen Revenge of the Sith. The dude's not holding back at all. He'll do whatever it takes.
Do you think all the new human stormtrooper recruits learn their own secret code for Order 67? Eliminate your clone commanders.
I don't know.
I
think that we do know the Zillo Beast is there. They set that up. We haven't seen a Zillo Beast yet, so I think the Zillo Beast could be making its return.
Oh,
that was in season 1. The commanders went after this.
Oh shiz, that's right.
Zillo Beast or whatever, and like we know that's lurking around there. So someone was mentioning that in the chat.
Oh goodness gracious! I forgot about that.
Zillo Beast that tears the facility. I think that it would be a release of the beast by people inside to try and escape. And it would just cause pure chaos, but I could totally see like Palpatine doing a lockdown of the planet and not letting anyone escape, and anyone that escaped would get shot down.
Kyle says, I'm betting that the Zillo Beast will eat Hemlock. That would be poetic, because yeah, we know that they've exercised biological warfare in the past, to hide their tracks, erase their tracks rather. So that would just be poetic justice, yeah. I feel like, for him, the mad scientist's creation.
Yeah.
But
Sean, that's a really good point too. What role is Rampart going to play?
That's true.
I could see him using this as an opportunity to gain back his Imperial favor.
No.
With Palpatine, yeah.
You think he's going to sabotage them?
I think so. He's going to lure them there, and then he's going to say, "Hey, Emperor, homie Sheev, brother Sheev, I captured your rogue Bad Batch clones for you, brought them to Tantus. They're the ones who ousted the entire thing with Senator Chuchi and let it all into the public, so here you go. I brought them right to you." And then Palpatine's going to kill him in cold blood and kill everybody, because there can't be any survivors, because Tantus cannot be allowed to be public knowledge.
I don't know. I'm curious, because he did not express any form of enthusiasm or willingness to go to Tantus. When he learned that the game plan was changing and he had to be tagging along, like, he was protesting at every point, ordering Hunter at the top of his lungs to call it off, to that this is a suicide mission, like, there's no chance. And of course we know Hunter disobeyed that and they sent it and made it just in the nick of time, but none of that, unless that, are you saying that could have been an act?
Yeah.
That he's so adamantly against going to Tantus?
If he's instantly like, oh yeah, I'll do it, I'll help you guys, that raises too many red flags. Versus if he plays hard to get, then it'll lower their suspicion of any type of betrayal.
They don't really trust him too much anyway. I don't know.
At the beginning, but he literally got him to Tantus, so they're going to be at an all-time low. If they show up and then Rampart's like, he walks down and then shakes Hemlock's hand and says, nice work, and they turn around and bam, there we go. But then at that same time, Omega is going to lead the escape right when they get there. And, it's going to go absolutely crazy. And then at that point, Hemlock's going to have no choice but to alert Palpatine at the risk of exposure because it's so crazy and people are leaving and they can't contain it. They can't contain it. And then Palpatine is going to unleash his wrath. And we will find out why the project was set back for so long.
Sal, I agree with this entirely. I'm kind of bummed that Disney Plus didn't roll out the final 4 Bad Batch episodes into 2 clumps of 2 episodes, kind of taking the wind out by doing 1 per week after the random 2 episode. Yes, literally, you would think, which that was a new phenomenon this season. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that was a new, somebody give them a promotion, had the genius idea of like, hey, why don't we have some sprinkled in double episode releases here back to back? Like, that tides me over, knowing some weeks I get 2, other weeks I get 1, but like it creates a nice balance of like, all right, sometimes we're just getting 1, but those 2 weeks when we get 2 episodes and they work well together, like they hit so much harder. So like, whoever did that, whoever's decision that was, give them a raise. But why wouldn't you would think that decision would carry into especially the finale? No. They did it for the premiere. We had the 3 episode premiere. And that was fabulous because they were cohesive, they worked well together, and it shaped like the trajectory of where the season is going to go. It was fabulous. It was awesome. It kept the momentum up, and 3 episodes is enough to hold me over before the next one. Versus, some weeks you get 1 episode, 25 minutes, and you're like, shoot, just give me more, like right away, please. Yeah,
I mean, I saw a leap runtime for the last episode of like an hour.
Really?
Yeah, I saw that somewhere. So maybe we do get a monster long episode.
Confirm that though. I feel like
because isn't the finale May 4th that week?
No, it's like May 1st.
That's the same week.
Yes,
May
it's
1st is
that
next
week.
Week.
Yes,
that's next week. Is it next week?
Yes.
Finale's next week.
Yes.
And we get 1 episode tonight and 1 episode next week.
Yes. But it's not on May 4th.
Yeah.
May 1st. But I don't know. Maybe that would be ideal if that's true. If we can get confirmation on that, I just don't know why they're withholding that. Somebody was mentioning, please Omega live. Yes, Rock Arrow. Yes, I don't think she's too much of a prized possession. I wouldn't say she's on the same level of Grogu in terms of the adoration and the outpouring of merchandise and whatnot. Grogu has been like a cultural phenomenon, but I feel like Star Wars with children, it would hopefully not do that.
She can't live.
Why?
Because then the whole premise of The Mandalorian doesn't make any sense.
Huh?
The Mandalorian, the Empire's after Grogu because they need him to continue the Project Necromancer. Like, we know Mandalorian's not complete. Hemlock is saying that Omega is the key to completing this project. If she lives, they're going to complete it.
Well, she could fake her own death. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of alternatives. They could go into hiding forever. She could totally evade them and escape somehow. Somehow that they have to just then redirect their efforts elsewhere.
Clearly, they tried to set that up with this season, where she escapes in the very beginning, and they stop at nothing to go find her, and they find her. So they already tried that. They tried a few episodes of the show of them escaping and hiding, but it was not successful. So I don't think Omega can live based on the story that they're setting up of she is the key to the success of Project Necromancer.
But still,
But we know in Mandalorian, Project Necromancer is not complete. It's not finished. It's not done. So if she lives, they're going to find her based on what the whole purpose of the season has been. And then they're going to complete the project early, which they can't do based on the timeline. So I think there is no chance that Omega lives, personally.
Fulcrum.
I think that's what they're setting up.
I speak for everyone when I say that we need a Sid show. No, we do freaking not. Oh, heck no.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with Sean. She could disappear somehow. Like, yeah, what vanished through the path, right? With Ventress somehow, right? Like, that's something else that we know they've already teased. We know that exists. That's already been established. Yeah. So, and the whole point of the path is for people to go into hiding forever. You know, change your identity, be free. Not even like witness protection, go in hiding, but just totally get a new life, start over, in safety. So,
yeah,
Sid show would equal the end of Star Wars. I agree with that, Sean. I would be livid beyond belief.
An Omega sacrifice would be. She's gonna sacrifice herself for those kids that are trapped there. So she frees the Force sensitive kids.
I could see that.
She sacrifices herself.
I could totally see that. I would cry in fetal position if they took out Omega. I'm not. It's
not taking out. That's not taking out. They're not going to show Vader show up and take Omega's head straight off her shoulders. Like, that wouldn't happen.
You didn't even have to freaking say that. Jesus.
But like her sacrificing herself for the freeing of all her clone brothers and the Jedi that are trapped there, like, that would be an incredible ending. That'd be incredible ending.
Yeah, I mean, she definitely had like residual guilt of I didn't get everybody else out, and everyone's told her that wasn't your job, that it was not your responsibility, it's not your fault that they're still there. Like, get that out of your head. Everyone else around her has been trying to adjust her mindset surrounding that, but it's clear that she just has an intrinsic it's on me to get the rest of them out. I should have done it. So she's carried this guilt. So sure, would that be believable that she were to do something and very much against Hunter's wishes or whatnot to leave herself behind or commits? This is the other thing. What kind of sacrifice? This facility is huge, and we don't know the extent. We know there's gotta be hundreds of prisoners there. So, you know, like, what sacrifice of one person would allow everyone else to go free, you know? Or, like, I know there's gonna be casualties at somehow, but I don't know. This is, especially since she's hatching her own plans, and now Hunter, Wrecker, and Crosshair are making their way there with Rampart. Like, I feel like it's gonna be split into two separate. I love how I came into this episode trying to not focus specifically on just the Bad Batch finale predictions, but here we are. I feel like it could be split into two separate. Where should go next?
That's where we're going next in 2 hours. So
I think it could be making way for two separate storylines here of, all right, they see that Omega has things maybe under control and that she could be evading capture again and helping these other kids get out now that she's learned, you know, she knows the ropes now. She knows how tight security is there. She's launched a successful escape mission in the past. I don't know. It could be. We'll see. Vader doesn't know about Tantus or Project Necromancer until someone in between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's become abundantly clear to me that my very first wish and prediction for this show that we would see Vader, like, it's not gonna happen. I remember I got so excited at the start of this series, like, we're gonna see Vader. It's such an amazing, exciting time. This is a new time period for Vader. He's fresh, young Vader. He's barely healed. Like, you know, it's become clear. I don't think that's going to happen. Yeah. That was like the one thing I wanted out of this show, excitedly. But obviously it's gone down a different trajectory. And there hasn't necessarily been need for Vader because they've just introduced, they've focused on Palpatine himself, cut
Yeah.
right to the chase.
And seeing Palpatine actually behave like Darth Sidious again would be awesome, because we don't see Palpatine be Darth Sidious outside of Revenge of the Sith. I mean, Return of the Jedi, he's electrocuting Luke, so I guess perhaps we see him in Revenge of the Sith, see him Return of the Jedi, and Clone Wars. But between Revenge of the Sith and Return of the Jedi, he's just nameless emperor with some lines of dialogue, and it's chilling dialogue. But we don't see him actually get involved physically with anything. Right. Even with Ezra and Rebels, well, I guess in the World Between Worlds, he's got his little lightning potion, whatever that is, with Ahsoka and Ezra. So that's the exception. We get that little tease. But not to like the reveal of anyone except for a very select few. So if he's gonna go all out and like Rise of Skywalker, base boosted lightning to the sky, just destroy Tantus,
holy shnikes,
I'd be down for that. I'd be up for that.
I don't know. He'd have to leave no survivors. That includes all the scientists there, the staff, literally everyone. I don't know.
You're acting like Palpatine is morally incapable of doing that.
But like that would just be a wild
the Death
ending.
Star
it would just be wild.
Slaughtered civilians on Jeddah, slaughtered the entirety of the population of Alderaan.
I'm aware. I'm not questioning his capability of that. I'm just questioning how that would be suited as an end.
Killed multiple planets.
How that would sink in as a finale. I don't know.
Yeah, Palpatine hallway scene. Exactly, Sean. Except instead of a hallway, it's the entire facility. With red Gucci robes, no less. Exactly, Matthew. He force summons the Gucci robes, base boosted lightning, and get us a tease of how he's able to summon the Gucci robes in the Bad Batch finale.
Yeah. No, I have no idea now. Remember they've said that there are other projects going on at the facility on Tantus. That's true. It's not just Project Necromancer. There's several different experiments or whatnot in the works over there. Scientific what's the word I'm looking for? Endeavors. So I don't know. I do hope that is true. The alleged leak regarding the final episode's runtime, because I feel like that's what we need. Like my brain's just so not I'm so in disbelief that it's already going to be wrapped up in 2 episodes. But if one of them is an hour long, like that feels so much more comforting. Like, yeah, we have time to work with here, because staging, whatever is going to be staged, whatever they're going to do on Tantus, I just don't feel settled that they can achieve it within, the 50-minute time span of 2 episodes.
Yeah, they're probably waiting to, if it is true, they're probably waiting to announce it until after this next episode. They'll release this one, and then they say, okay, hour-long finale next week on Disney Plus, and then they'll pump out a bunch of like TV spot type trailers and whatnot, market it, stuff like that.
Says like a May the 4th week special.
Yeah.
Did you have any poll ideas for this evening?
I
realized we never did a poll last week for our trivia celebration. I guess there was nothing really to poll. We were all being polled.
Didn't we do one in the beginning?
Did we? Oh, we did a poll of what our final. That's right. What our other final punishments should be.
Yeah.
Did you have any ideas for tonight?
Well, I think to circle back to the overarching theme of this week's Dork Discourse is,
what would we like to see next?
Where do we go next? I mean, we kind of talked about all mediums and formats, animation, short form, long form, episodic, live action film, TV show, short form, long form, episodic. So we kind of talked about everything.
Rather than a poll, should we just pitch to the chat? If you were granted the keys to Lucasfilm and you got to decide the next storyline, the next project, branching, whether it branches off from Bad Batch or animation, or I kind of wanted to hear from other people, like animation, because like, yeah, I know we're still seated with live action shows in the pipeline, but as far as Star Wars animation goes right now, we're treading on open waters with just Tales of the Jedi, just the Tales of franchise. So I want to know, I just need hope. I want to manifest and get some hope that there's maybe some confidence that there's going to be some sort of other spin-off from this, or just announcement of a new show. I know there was that rumored like Darth Maul animated series forever ago. Like there's so much that they could do. They could do animation with like Crimson Dawn and Darth Maul and Kira and whatnot, or you know, Rex and the clones, his efforts here, and how that does transpire or boil down to what transpires that prompts Rex, where we see him now, to eventually go into hiding with kind of, not that he's hopeless, but he's just much more jaded. You know.
Yeah. I think my personal fascination is, I think, with Palpatine.
You're right there with Jerry. Palpatine like, series or story.
Yes. Like, I mean, we see, I mean, in the original trilogy, we don't even know he exists until Empire Strikes Back. We see his face. And then it, you know, kind of builds up to him in Return of the Jedi as being the Emperor and, you know, Vader's master, and he's, you know, basically treats Vader like a slave, and Vader is chained to Palpatine's will. And then the prequels, we get the whole, you know, the real brilliance of Palpatine in terms of his whole political game plan to literally take over control of the galaxy, which I don't think anyone before the prequels came out, just from research, expected the prequels to really show Palpatine's, the nature of Palpatine's like mastermind way of plotting out the downfall of the Jedi, the downfall of the Republic, and the rise of the Empire, that it was all Palpatine. He wasn't just like voted to be Emperor. Like he literally, the entire state of the galaxy is because of his doing. So like the man is clearly a mastermind and manipulative, and he literally takes Anakin and torments him and plays games with him, and turns him to the dark side. So I would love to see either, you know, kind of like what we kind of got a tease at with Kenobi, but like Revenge of the Sith is basically like Anakin falling, and you see him crying on Mustafar because he recognizes that what he's doing, but he still does it because of Palpatine's just sheer power of manipulation. And like when Vader screams out no after Palpatine tells him that Padme dies, like in that moment you feel like, you, even after watching Anakin kill everybody and choke his wife out, you still feel bad for him just because of how evil and manipulative Palpatine is. And he's smirking in the moment, like you're like, this dude is so, he's brilliant and evil at the same time. And so either seeing like him continue to treat Vader like his dog after Revenge of the Sith, like kind of what we see in the comics of Palpatine basically challenging Vader to let go of his past and all this stuff, and like torturing Vader, like seeing their relationship of Palpatine has revealed his true form, and he is not afraid to hold back on Anakin and Vader to turn him into the cold-blooded, you know, Anakin's gone that we see in Kenobi 10 years later. So something like that, or Palpatine Plagueis and Palpatine learning the ways of the dark side and killing Plagueis and starting like before his master plan of taking over the galaxy is underway, like seeing him, you know, be really like training in the dark side and then ultimately using that to kill his master and set forth his master plan of taking over the galaxy. So either before the prequels, right before Palpatine, or right after Palpatine-centric story, I think would be my number one on the list.
And that timeline especially would be something that could be beneficial to tap into following The Acolyte specifically, to
Mm-hmm.
tie things in, kind of give it some relevance. Everybody's shouting out some good ideas up in here. I still want to see what Project Black Saber is. Oh yes, obviously it's referred to the Mandalorian's destruction back in Rogue One, but I'd love to see Moff Gideon head up that project, a future project. Yes. Um, I don't think we'll see anything for the finale until the day after, since they want to keep surprises. That's a good point,
Yep.
Kyle.
Yeah.
I like your Darth Maul shirt.
Thank you.
Tom always gets a comment on it whenever he
Yeah.
wears it.
Love the shirt.
I'd like them to move away from filling in the gaps in the timeline, instead move like 1,000 years into the future with all new characters. I would very much like that as well, Visitor Zeta, but based on the fact that people can't even handle just the Acolyte right now and how different that is and how foreign that feels, because it is uncharted territory, granted there is the High Republic, it's still tethered to something, it still have the High Republic content, but I don't know that most people have read that.
Yeah, I don't think the criticism is the
Well,
timeline
so many
of what they're
people
trying to
are
say.
like didn't know what to think after watching the trailer, because it is just whole new stories, whole new timeline. It's not tethered by any means to Skywalker Saga.
I don't think that's it. I feel like it's just like the quality.
No.
Like it looks, and I mean, still, I watch it and I'm like, that's like it doesn't look like anything specifically new, and it kind of looks like just lower.
We've seen 30
budget of
seconds
stuff
worth.
that we've already seen.
We've seen like 2 minutes worth of it.
So I feel like the complaints are like they've been hyping up the show as like the dark side and following the dark side, but all we see is the protagonist wielding a knife.
They're
and,
not gonna. Show
killing
it all.
Jedi, but like
they're not gonna
we
show
don't see
all
her
their cards.
kill any Jedi. So yeah, I'd be definitely keeping the bulk of the plot and everything lock and key behind closed doors. But like yeah, if you just watch that trailer, it's like it did not make me any more excited for the show.
Speaking of the dark side, Richard Taylor would like to see Tales of the Sith. _ says I would do 3 main projects. One would be a bunch of anthologies delving into specific alien cultures. Ooh, that would be very cool. A second would be a new saga with 1,000 years in the future. So a lot of us are in the same page that we want to just skirt into the future. Jerry also would like to do a Palpatine series or a story. _ says that their 3rd project would be an adaptation of the novels. For real.
Technically, that's under underscore score.
Under underscore score.
Under underscore score. Good comment.
Tales of the Rebellion, says Richard. Tales of the First Jedi. Tales of the Geode, says Fulgrim. I do know that to be a High Republic reference. Sal says, I can't choose just one. My top 5 picks for the next animated projects would be a Dooku series after Phantom Menace.
Formation of the Separatist Alliance type of thing.
A Maul, Crimson Dawn, an Asajj and Quinlan. I'm rooting for that right now. Rex Revolution, yes. Or a Tar Vizsla Mandalorian Jedi. Oh, Sal.
All good ideas.
If you were to throw all those into a hat and pick one, I'd be happy with any single one of those. Tales of Luke Skywalker, for real. You could do Tales of everything at this point. I wish it wasn't a legend story, but I would have loved an animated adaptation of Shadows of the Empire. Ooh, yeah, I would like to see them. I feel like the stuff in all the novels and even Legends now, stuff that's been deemed Legends or EU, is still such good material to work with. That's true. We can't forget about the Shadow Clone Assassin. There could still be something going there. Tales of Qui-Gon Jinn. No, that one I would watch. Yeah. Y'all know I would be the first one to sign up for that.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of got it in Tales of the Jedi.
Yeah.
The young Qui-Gon.
That's true. Julian Ortiz says, I would want to see some Luke and Mara Jade. I think that would be very popular. I know she's definitely a character people would like to be integrated. Tales of the Sith, a series about the creation of the Sith. Yeah, Sith are definitely popular. Which I agree too. Like, I think somebody had commented earlier about Malgus. Like, please.
No.
I would cry. Other projects could include a Grievous Origin video game or a House of Hape's TV show like Game of Thrones about Ta Chum when she was young and the power struggles she faced. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know who that is.
Underscore score.
But I am down for Grievous origin story. Tells the Jedi crimes of the Order. Oh, that could be really interesting. How about a Mara Jade movie? A Tar Vizsla series, hundreds of years in the past would be awesome. You guys have some good ideas.
Yeah.
I would vote for any of these.
A Grievous story would probably be one of the more unique options they could pick.
Oh yeah.
Because it could be like Civil War, like totally just focused on the one planet, but then, I mean, Grievous proves himself as this like ultimate warrior, and then he gets wrapped up in the bigger scale conflict of the Clone Wars and Palpatine and the Sith. And again, you could see another example of Palpatine turning a living being into a cyborg slave that has to bend to his will. And then obviously, I mean, Grievous himself is just incredibly cool and ruthless, and
to see
get away with just slaughtering.
Evolution of becoming a cyborg would be oof. Because there was one thing I think that was what made Tales of the Jedi Dooku's storyline in particular so positively received. You see the evolution, you see where this person started. We know where they end up. We know where they morally stand on the opposite side of things. But to see how somebody gets there, like to pitch the prospect that not everyone who is bad starts out that way. And that there were many things that I was watching that I like freaking was agreeing with Dooku on, like he was spitting facts. And even watching him, slay Yaddle, it was still like, dang it, I agree with some of the things this guy said. Like, that version of Dooku, it's like, it's hard at times to root against him because it shows a different, a very humanized lens of how he gets to where he eventually does, but still at that period in time holds, has some factual things to say that I really agreed with. So, it would be a similar concept with Grievous, At that point, we know him in the Clone Wars, especially in Revenge of the Sith, he's just a killing machine, but it's like, how did you get to this? Because that's tragic in a way as well, to slowly lose, he starts off as a sentient being sorry, there's mega sirens going on outside. That one tapped into something in my brain.
Yeah, the Darth Maul movie is very promising as well. And I think they've set some things up that justify it happening, which is his whole involvement with Crimson Dawn, the fact that Maul is on Malachor and Rebels and knows about Vader. Like, they have some type of history there between Clone Wars and Rebels that we don't see. So like if it's the Crimson Dawn movie and Maul and Kira and they go to some, if their power level and galactic influence reaches a certain threshold, and then Palpatine and Vader have to put their foot down because they're getting too much power, sign me up.
Yeah.
A Palpatine Vader versus Crimson Dawn and Maul Kira power struggle film. Sign
That's
me
what I think.
up.
I think Star Wars needs to tap into some of the villains, which is why, like, Tales of the Empire, I'm excited for. I think that will be fun because I feel like we've been lacking solid villain content, really. I stand by this with Mandalorian.
Absolutely.
Moff Gideon is fabulous. Don't get me wrong. It's just he's criminally underdeveloped and allegedly dead, seemingly deceased. It's like, I would equate it to Snoke. Like, just as his character was getting somewhat dynamic and interesting, just as he was getting a little bit fleshed out, he's dead. We'll see where that goes, if there's clones in the process there or not. But Ahsoka we saw in live action. I think one of the things that has, if anything, I would argue that the animation, maybe this is why I want the animation to continue, has done a better job of developing awesome villains. Hemlock, like, there's still much to be learned about him, but he's still a formidable foe in ways that you wouldn't necessarily expect. It's not like, oh my god, he could strike you down in a hot second with a lightsaber. Like, I don't know if this guy has any self-defense capabilities, but with his mind and his how warped and twisted and absolutely just vile the way his brain works, I'd venture to say he's almost insane. It's like a genius who's insane and has such deranged ambitions. You know, that's almost more frightening than like General Grievous's forearms. Like, yeah, both can kill you, both can work against you. You know, and we see, you know, the Thrawn that we see in Rebels, again, animation is so much better than the Thrawn that we see in Ahsoka. You know, Andor, I guess the overarching villain, I'll give it to Andor. They really established the Empire in a way that feels fitting and feels formidable. You know, that we see with the IBS.
The ISB, yeah, that's a good point.
That IBS is bad. You know?
Andor does, like, they do show that the villain is ruthless in that show. Like, in that show, you're right. The Empire itself is the villain, and they do show that it's ruthless with the prison and how they're rounding up civilians.
Yeah,
like, there is a brutal ruthlessness. Like, there is fear. Like, you fear them.
Yeah.
Versus Mandalorian, I don't think Moff Gideon has done anything that strikes fear in the audience. I mean, he's captured Grogu, hasn't done anything with him. They didn't torture Grogu. They didn't do anything. I mean, I think in the first season when Grogu's captured and you see him on the operating table, like, that's a moment of fear for Grogu. But outside of that, like, you don't get I don't recall a moment of like pure fear of what anything that Gideon did. Same with Ahsoka. Like, Thrawn, you're right, hasn't done anything to strike fear in the audience like he did in Rebels with all of his tactics and
it's like the animation has done a great job. I think if I had to choose between who's developing better villains right now, I'd give it to the animation, which is why I don't want it to be over.
But to their credit, Kenobi, Vader,
well, you're working with Darth Vader.
Absolutely struck fear. Yes, it's an established character, but Thrawn's an established character, not to the same level of Vader, obviously. But they took Vader to a whole new level of fear.
Yeah.
The scene of him strolling through town, snapping necks, dragging bodies, lighting Obi-Wan on fire. Like, he's literally, they took Vader and took him to a whole new level of fear in the Kenobi show. Of striking fear into the audience. But outside of Kenobi, I think Andor with the Empire is another good example. But, like, really, I mean, even the sequel trilogy, really kind of everything post Return of the Jedi so far, there's not that overarching, like, fear. And even though the First Order wiped out the Hosnian system and killed civilians, like, you don't ever fear Hux. You don't really ever fear Snoke. While you do, and I think
I feared more of Snoke's control, how he was able to control and twist Kylo Ren, and I feared the concept more than the figure.
Palpatine, not Snoke himself. But like Snoke, the interrogation in The Last Jedi when he's interrogating Rey, like, I do in the theater, like, there was definitely a sense of fear of Snoke in that moment.
That was also, was that our first time seeing him in the flesh? Because we'd only ever seen that giant hologram of him, so it was like, this guy is real.
Speaking of Gucci robes, Palpatine clearly is sponsored by Gucci or Versace or whatever post Return of the Jedi.
Funded by Gucci.
Exegol is a staging ground for Gucci and Versace sponsorships, because, I mean, Snoke rolls out in that gold robe, and then Palpatine comes back in the flesh after absorbing the dyad, and he's got the ruby red swagged out robe. Like, Exegol is making some serious fashion statements. And the Sith cultists must take heavy funding from high Italian fashion chains. But anyway, but like even when Palpatine comes back in Rise of Skywalker, like, I think the opening scene with Kylo, like you get that sense of fear. Like you can tell Kylo is like kind of taken back, even though Kylo straight up holds a saber to his face. Like you get the fear then, but like when he's talking with Rey, like I don't think you really feel it.
Well, because it's not the same version of Palpatine by any means. And also it was so. I think some of that is chalked up to the fact that it was boiled down to the kind of last minute. It was a bit abrupt, a bit sudden, spontaneous, kind of for the trilogy, like that it was hard to digest it and believe that it was really happening. For me personally, I don't want to make a generalization of why maybe it didn't hit harder, but yeah, I don't know. That's my moral of all this is I think the animation does a good job of, I do feel like afraid of Hemlock and what he's capable of,
Yeah.
and I felt afraid of. I felt respect and fear for Thrawn that we've seen, Rebels, and I'm sure we'll see more in Tales of the Empire when we see, the Inquisitor practice, and I didn't realize it during my initial reaction to that trailer, but what we talked about, like the final test is you get thrown in an octagon with another contestant, one lightsaber, and you have to kill your opponent to prove your worth. Like, I mean, that's freaking scary.
The Inquisitors in Kenobi as well. I mean, the way Riva is, she chopped the woman's hands off. Like, I mean, the brutality towards civilians and people who are clearly less powerful than them, like that generates fear, because as an audience, you sympathize with the people who don't have the Force and the regular citizens.
Well, I'll always just be scared of the Inquisitors no matter what, because they're trained to, they are stripped of absolutely all their humanity, any sort of soul that they have. They're trained to have zero mercy, so every time I'd have to face them in Jedi Fallen Order or Jedi Survivor, I'm like, frick, because they're just scary. Especially, I think the fear is also knowing that they were once good. This person was once, what a person can become capable of when they are put through the absolute ringer.
Yeah.
The absolute almost torture, I'd venture to say. We'll find out in the process when we see Barriss Offee's transition. Yeah. She's already got a little bit of darkness in her, but I think we're still going to see her become more and more. They really whip them into shape. So, we're definitely going to get some more of that good old, just the villains that I'm so desperately craving in Star Wars as of late.
Yeah. But they did set up Thrawn with an opportunity to strike fear in the citizens of the galaxy.
Somebody did say in the chat, wait till Thrawn gets all his resources back.
Yeah. If they go planet by planet and are just brooded and demonstrating brutality across the civilians of the galaxy to get the New Republic's attention, that's going to strike fear.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a new type of fear post Return of the Jedi time frame. Also, Team Money, happy belated birthday, sir. Hope it was a good one.
Indeed. Thanks for being here. Thanks for popping in. The Inquisitors are all intimidating and cool looking, but they all end up getting killed by Ahsoka in 2 seconds. Oh, that's true. Well, that speaks to her. I always interpreted that, though. The way she's able to dunk on them speaks to her power at that point, especially in Rebels. I never saw it as like, oh, these Inquisitors stink compared to her. I saw it as she's just so at another level, at that point. She's quite the formidable foe herself. But darkness itself changes the person. Yep, I'm excited to see it in we'll see it in both cases with Morgan and Barriss. But that's why Dooku's storyline intrigued me the most, to see how somebody can evolve like that. It was great. I had my first rap performance. Let's go!
Awesome.
That's incredible. What a way to celebrate.
Congrats.
I hope it went well. I'm sure it did. More to come in the future. Heck yes.
There we go.
That's awesome. That's fabulous. But yeah, on that note, I feel like did you have any poll ideas?
Yeah.
No. You did? Oh, you finally have. I've been out here stalling, thinking you didn't have a poll.
That was a good discussion. That was a great conclusion discussion for the week.
Hit us with your poll.
All right.
Hit us with your poll.
All right. Should The Rock be
Oh
cast as
my
young
god.
Palpatine? Yes or yes? How do I phrase it?
None of the Inquisitors are masters. They're knights or less. Fair point. Julian, thank you so much, my friend.
Julian.
2024 to 2025 is the year of the Sith. Come on, Lucasfilm. We need more Sith movies, Sith rules. Need more Sith on the screen. I feel like we're going to hopefully get a taste of that in the Acolyte. Thank you again for the super chat. You're very, very generous, my friend. I'm hoping that, yes, to your point, the trailer didn't overwhelmingly scream dark side Sith, spooky, scary. But I think, they gotta hold their cards. They're not gonna show their whole deck. They gotta withhold some things. So I do think that Acolyte will tap into some of that, hopefully, to an extent that we've not really seen it in a while. And it could be interesting if they continue with animation. They're already pivoting here to Tales of the Empire. It could be interesting if we got another animated series that, for so long we have been exploring, the Clone Wars, the Republic, and now the Bad Batch. We've followed the heroes for quite some time. So it could be time for a fresh slate with some villains, some more Sith or dark side coded figures. Geez, how many options is this poll gonna have?
4.
Well, I feel like this is kind of, actually, this might be interesting.
This is kind of what
the two, your last two were the exact same.
Oh, crap!
I think we can edit. I think we didn't.
No, just end it.
No, now you have to freaking retype all of this.
False alarm.
Oh my god.
False alarm. No, check this out. You ever heard of copy paste?
I don't think this is gonna work.
Woman. Copy paste, people. It's a fancy schmancy tool that you can use on your computer so that you can save from having to type. If some people don't know about it,
it's just still so annoying.
Just telling you for your awareness.
Oh goodness gracious!
If you don't have a Mac, then
please, for the love of God, let me do that.
No!
Oh my God,
You just made it worse. I had it. You made it worse. Stop.
No,
stop.
Please, Jesus, let me do this, please.
Catherine has the patience of.
Well, you already spent 12 minutes typing it out. You already spent 12 minutes typing it out. Please, for the love of God. Also, this one was spelled with 2 N's.
You don't even know how to copy without using the shortcuts.
And I made it. I do use the shortcut. This is just easier. I don't have to use 2 hands. All right, don't let me press post until I fix this.
Parenthesis in there.
All right, I take it this last one was meant to be films.
Yes.
All right, finally, here's the correct poll. Even though y'all got to see I'm pretty sure it shows up in the chat for you guys what the prompts were, but what medium should Star Wars focus on? Animated shows, animated films, live action films, live action shows, or live action films? And I have a feeling this is going to have the most diverse disbursement of responses.
Yeah, I mean, it's everybody has a preference, I think.
I don't even know what I would choose.
Type of content they're looking at. And the good news is they're presumably looking at all of these. I would think that animated films is probably something that we don't really know of anything in the work at the moment. But certainly animated shows, live action films. I mean, we've been getting a mix of between the shows for years now.
Yeah.
Since The Mandalorian. And I guess Clone Wars. Well, even Rebels. So, but we haven't had the films in quite some time. So
Yeah, but we
over 5
know.
years.
Danny, sweet Jesus, my God.
Danny,
Last minute
you
super chat,
are
indeed.
too kind.
Holy goodness, my friend. My 2 cents. I'd love to see an epic Star Wars trilogy that blends political and mystical like Macbeth. My fave story ever, a trilogy by Nolan or Denis V, would get so many people excited. Yes, and we know that Denis Villeneuve from Dune, he focused on the kind of political and religious aspects of that story very well, and kind of the warnings within that, the sub-story of, Paul Atreides' ascension. So that would be, I think that could be very, that's something actually that I feel like Star Wars hasn't necessarily focused on too much. That was a lot of the bulk of the prequels. Which, granted, for me at the time as a child, that was the most confusing element of the prequels for me, all of the politics and stuff. So, like, I can see why they might not tap into that. Or I should
But
say,
that's one of the
Andor
best
is
part. That's one reason why people love the prequels. Is because it takes the tease of some type of structure of government that the original trilogy lays out, and then gives you like a full evolution of that government and the galactic. The prequels just take the like tenfold the scale of the galaxy that is shown in the original trilogy.
It just adds to the world building.
It just enhances it, and the political landscape and relationships, and ultimately Palpatine's manipulation and master plan. Like, that's one of my favorite parts about the prequels, is just because of how it shows the state of basically the entire galaxy and how the system works.
Andor has actually tapped in a little bit. We see it with Mon Mothma, showing the senator's side of things, like the state of politics at the time. But I do agree. I think if you were to get either of those two directors to do some Star Wars, that would certainly be top-notch material. And probably just a very fresh take on it too. Very a different format. I think that's why I've got to go with if I had to choose, I would go with animated shows right now. If we look at it, all we've gotten in animation in the past few years has been Bad Batch and Tales of, and I should, the Star Wars Visions, but that is so fabulous because it's, in my honest opinion, all of the live action shows right now, I'm gonna be honest, and I don't mean this as a critique, but it's kind of starting to feel a little bit they're all the exact same to me.
Like the same
Book
feeling
of
watching
Boba,
it.
Ahsoka, Mando, they all have the same aesthetic, same vibe. Feels like they were all filmed in the same sets, same volume, like versus Andor is the one, it feels the most thematically and aesthetically, tonally different. I want that for all of the shows. I want each show to stand out on its own, versus the Mandoverse has become a thing because you could binge all of those back to back to back.
Kenobi's separate too. I'd really say it's the Mandoverse stuff.
Yes,
because it's all kind of the same.
Yeah.
It's basically the same show. It's revolving the New Republic and their
so we will see
touching the galaxy, like
where Acolyte fits with all of that.
Yeah.
But that's why I kind of want, I don't know, I would like them to, as of now, we don't have any new live action. We've got Acolyte, season 2 of Andor, season 2 of Ahsoka, and however many seasons remain of Mandalorian, but there's nothing new in the pipeline beyond those, and I don't know if they're necessarily going to tackle anything.
Skeleton Crew.
That's not happening. That show is never freaking happening.
They showed teaser footage.
It's not happening. It's not happening.
Europe.
Who's this from? We had one final super chat. We have several final super chats. My goodness, Julian, thank you so much, my friend.
You guys are animals.
Thank you so much. I would like to see Christopher Nolan direct a Star Wars movie and see his vision. It would be incredible. It would be mine. It would literally be, I don't even know if we're worthy right now, like, for Christopher Nolan to come in here and work his magic, but I would freaking, it would be mind blowing.
Yeah. On the subject of Nolan, we watched Catherine watched Interstellar again for the first time in a long time the other night, and she was reminded that Interstellar is arguably the greatest movie in cinematic history. Do you still stand by that statement?
Yeah.
No?
Yeah, I still think it's a little too much of a mind.
Have you seen Inception or Tenet?
No, because you fell the frick asleep for
Yeah,
both of
because
those
those are no Inception. I've seen all the way through. I think
after 3 sittings.
Tenet, I've tried, and
Fell
no,
asleep.
those are just mind benders.
20 minutes.
Those
We
are
didn't even
total
get to the
benders.
mind bending
Interstellar
part.
is very much reality,
Yes, rooted in
dabbling
science. In theoretical
and physics, theoretical physics.
Matthew Brown, thank you so much for the last minute super chat as well. You guys are all so generous here at the final few moments. Thank you so much. I think that they should explore more of the animation possibilities. I really think that they should do an animated version of the Ronin from Star Wars Visions or the era of Darth Revan. That Ronin in that style of animation, it would be incredible. Maybe I shouldn't say take any, but all of the Star Wars Visions animations are so, you could take several of those storylines and expand and flesh out a whole frickin' show, and I'd be seated for it. But the Ronin storyline specifically was like a great way to open things up, and I feel like it could be the most expanded upon. So I second that, and I would love to see, not that I don't love, especially now that they've really perfected the style of the Clone Wars animation, which is also why I just want more, because you can see even a difference from the art of season 1 of Bad Batch to now. I feel like it gets better every freaking episode. It's so incredible what they're able to achieve visually. So that's another reason I'm like, please don't stop now while it looks this amazing and they're clearly making advancements. Like, please. So yeah, I'm team. Well, what's the breakdown here? Animated shows wins with 36%, but it's still very split. Animated films and live action films tied for the runner up with 23% each, and then the live action shows. So everyone's in a little bit in agreement that the live action shows maybe should take a little breather.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. It's the most content. It's the content.
That's true.
The medium we've been getting the most of over the last few years.
Right.
So I think it makes sense. People looking for something new. But it's also worth noting, animation is 59%.
True.
Versus live action is 41%.
This is true.
People are, and I think the track record speaks for it. I mean, if you look at the animation that we've gotten, Clone Wars finale, Rebels, and Bad Batch, and Visions, but the canon stuff, like all 3 of those shows have incredible moments in them, which, like, if you think about Clone Wars season 7, I mean, we just said at the beginning of the stream that could be the best thing that Disney Lucasfilm has put out. And then the moments in Rebels, Twilight of the Apprentice in particular, the season 2 multi-part finale, but then even the end of the show, end of season 4, is really incredible. There's a lot of good content in it.
A lot of good potential.
Even the Bad Batch. I mean, it looks great. A lot of great episodes. It's speaking. It speaks for itself. The stories that they're telling, and then obviously Tales of the Jedi, incredible, and this Tales of the Empire that's coming up. I mean, they're pumping out some serious bangers in the world of animation. Versus, like you said, all the Mandoverse stuff is kind of all the same. It's all tying together. The outliers we've gotten so far are Kenobi and Andor, which I think both of those were new experiences, fresh viewing experiences. But even still with those shows, there's still a lot of, complaints and criticisms and surrounding all the live action stuff. I feel like generally for animation, the one consistent piece of criticism through all of them, I think, is the word filler. Filler gets thrown out all over the place for shows. I feel like more so in live action versus the animated stuff. I think Bad Batch is the outlier of, versus Rebels and Clone Wars, but this season so far, really not a lot of filler criticism that I've seen going around.
And
It's pretty
Sid,
much been a consistent through line, and Sid is completely
Sid is
MIA.
gone. That's the
so-
most important part. That's been the best freaking part.
But the good news is the next live action show, Acolyte, is not in Mandoverse. It's a completely,
right. Yes,
totally
so
new time period
there
from
is
anything we've
potential
ever
here.
seen. So
there's lots of
for
potential.
people looking for new and
And they
it's
allegedly
gonna-
did not use the volume. Allegedly, I'd have to
I don't
don't fact check me on that. Do not quote me on it. Fact check me, but I believe I had seen on Twitter X following the first initial trailer that they, and I had known from leaked set photos that they built a whole set and whatnot. So I do believe that they shot mostly on location. We will see, but that would be most exciting for me aesthetically. I'm a little bit sick of the volume, and I know Star Wars looks amazing when it's on actual, actually on location. That's the case for anything. Everything looks better when it's real, but that's not to say I think, animation, there's a lot. I hope that we manifested tonight some different paths that they could go to explore to continue to keep going with the animation of Star Wars. So thank you guys for all of your contributions.
So you're going animated shows?
I
That's
said
the
that.
thing,
Yeah, I said that.
I think I'm still going. I would go live action films.
Okay.
And I think the one significant data point that makes me think about that is Rogue One. To this day, seeing Rogue One in the theater is the greatest movie theater experience of my entire life.
Wow.
This is coming from someone who did not see any of the prequels
Right.
in theaters. So I would think that Revenge of the Sith would be at number one if
Had we been just old enough.
if we had seen
If we
Revenge of the
weren't
Sith
9
in
years
the
old.
theaters. But like Rogue One and the end, like that is true cinematic Star Wars masterpiece at its
Potential,
finest.
yeah.
Everything on Scarif, and even starting like with Edu, like the Death Star blowing up Jeddah from there on through Edu through Scarif, like it's so good, and it's just a build up, and then obviously the end with Vader was a total surprise, and like nothing in the theater and nothing Star Wars not in the theater has ever hit like that moment for me personally. So I think the potential of getting that like total shock, just like mind-blowing moment when it's in live action on the big screen in the movie theater, it is peak chills and goosebumps and just pure euphoria.
And that's the most when you really are just riding that high and you just feel it is unmatched in that moment, and it's just like Star Wars is alive, it's like that's when you really feel it in your soul for sure. So, but we know that we're finally getting there. I feel like we're going at a snail's pace, y'all. I still can't fully believe it until we finally get a trailer for one of these upcoming films, but we know it is on the horizon. Whether it's far or near, we know it's approaching at whatever speed it might be. So, but on that note, this was a very fun. I was excited. Thank you guys for all of your interaction and involvement and sharing your ideas on this subject. I hope we manifested something tonight together as a crew. I hope we wake up tomorrow to an announcement after the Bad Batch is over. New Star Wars show, new animated series, and I pray that it's not like coming 2027. Please, can we get it soon? But thank you guys so very much for watching. Hope you guys are doing so well. As always, enjoy the penultimate of Bad Batch this evening.
Yes.
I'll definitely be seeing you guys in my reaction very soon, shortly after. But until then, hope you all have a great rest of your day, night, morning, evening, 3 a.m., wherever it may be for you. Have fun watching the Bad Batch. I'll catch you in my reaction. We'll catch you next week for our finale pregame.
Yes. Bad Batch finale pregame.
Yes.
And Acolyte pregame. And Tales of the Empire pregame.
It's not coming till June.
Never mind.
Your birthday.
Bad Batch pregame.
Acolyte comes out on your birthday,
Sure,
remember?
it does.
Yeah.
True.
But we have a lot to pregame actually next week. Yeah, it's freaking Star Wars palooza next week. So rest up now, everybody. We're not gonna get rest then.
Yes.
Until then, thank you guys so much for watching, and we will catch you guys again very
Yes.
very soon.
Have a good night, everybody. See you all later.
Bye, friends.